listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
There's a wonderful organization here in the St. Louis area that cares for our new neighbors in a wonderful way, showing them the mercy and love of Christ. We're going to learn more about that and a great need that they have right now in just a moment. Thanks to Concordia University, Wisconsin for supporting The Coffee Hour. Find out more about Concordia University, Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live uncommon.
Joining us today, the Reverend Dr. Stanish Stanley, Executive Director of Christian Friends of New Americans. Pastor Stanish, welcome back to The Coffee Hour.
Thank you, Andy, sir, and Sarah, ma'am. Thanks for having me.
Also joining us today, Amy Ziegler. She is Community Engagement Associate with Christian Friends of New Americans. Amy, welcome to The Coffee Hour.
Thank you for having me.
Christian Friends of New Americans serves many people here in the St. Louis area, showing them the mercy and love of Christ, caring for our neighbors in wonderful ways. And I know, Pastor Stanish, we have talked many times about what CFNA does. And so for our listeners who maybe haven't heard one of the many conversations we've had, tell us a little bit about what CFNA does today.
Well, Christian Friends of New Americans, CFNA, is a ministry in the St. Louis City area. It is a Lutheran Church recognized service organization, and it just reaches out to refugees and immigrants who are coming into the St. Louis area, who are being resettled, mainly as refugees, and just starting life completely new. And so CFNA, through the agency of various Lutheran Church believers, churches, organizations, tries to reach out to our refugee friends, serve them in the best way possible, bless them with resources, with all the benefits that we have as Christians, and walk alongside refugees and immigrants so that they can have a new life here in the States, especially in St. Louis.
Tell us about the refugees who have resettled here in St. Louis, making St. Louis their new home, and who find their support with CFNA. How did they come to the United States?
Well, it's a long story, especially for the refugees more than for us. Yeah, and I talk more about refugees mainly because we work significantly more 90% of the time with refugees, or 95% of the time with refugees who are resettled. Maybe we might have a few immigrants also who come and avail of our services. Mainly the system is pretty much a refugee is somebody who is facing alienation because he or she has been uprooted from her place of living, wherever that country might have been. It might have been due to ethnic cleansing that happened in their area, or a war, or some kind of persecution, mostly religious and ethnic in nature. And so they flee from their country to another country that's for safety. And that's their second place of living, where most of the time they are not really desired because it is not their place, but it's the neighboring country where they feel safe, where they can kind of flee to. And from there, it starts a long process of United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees getting involved, of a process of vetting people who would be available, who would possibly be resettled in a third country. And that is what's called as third country resettlement. It's done through the United Nations Charter for Refugees, and there are certain countries that sign up for that, mostly countries in the West, where population growth has diminished, and so there's a need for people to pick up jobs and things like that. And so, of course, driven by compassion as well, the United Nations makes it possible for refugees to be resettled after going through the process of proper resettlement, vetting, and various other things. And so we've come across people who have been in refugee camps in the second country for maybe 10, 15, 20, 25 years. And then they finally get an opportunity after going through all the visa process and interviews and whatever is involved to be here in the United States. Sometimes it's in Europe. Sometimes it is in Australia. Sometimes it's in countries like Turkey that people kind of settle down through this process. So the United Nations, the United States, for that matter, is one of the countries that welcomes in refugees so that they can be resettled through various agencies that are federally funded for that purpose. And here in St. Louis, we have the International Institute of St. Louis, which is the main refugee resettlement agency. It's not one of the big 9 agencies that contracts with the U.S. government, but it is one of the main subcontracted organizations that resettles refugees here in St. Louis. And so that's the main agency that brings in refugees to the St. Louis area. last year, for instance, they brought in somewhere around 1,200 refugees from somewhere around 80 countries. That's what I heard. And so now what happens is that naturally these friends are given a 90-day window where they are provided with insurance, where they're provided with house rents, because people come with nothing. And so those kind of support systems are in place with federal funding. And as a result of those funds being frozen, naturally these people are seeking help at this point in time. But even if it was not the case, 3 months is not a period where really people can pick up a job or learn the language if they have zero English and if they don't have much. And so CFNA is in many ways a gap ministry, which is serving people who are in need. It's very much centered by Christ-centered, on Christ-centered compassion and believers who want to be the hands and feet of Jesus for people who are in need. And so that is essentially how people come to know more about CFNA, especially within the refugee circle, because CFNA's main center, the Peace Center on South Brand Boulevard, is placed within a 5-mile radius or a 3-mile radius, to be more precise, of various refugees who are being resettled in the St. Louis city area. And so they know about CFNA mainly because of the work that we've already done for the past 20 years, word by mouth. Even maybe they hear from the International Institute themselves that there's this organization called CFNA where you could get some help. And so people get connected to CFNA and come over to our place. And then it's all about us, how we show the compassion of Christ and love of Christ through the service that we provide. And thereby we walk alongside refugees and immigrants too.
Amy, what does day-to-day life look like for these refugees and families who are coming and being resettled in St. Louis? What does that life look like for them in work and school and family life? What have you seen?
Yeah, so they are starting all the elements of life from scratch. Most of them are from refugee camps where they've lived an average of about 17 years. So they come over young, scrappy, and hungry and ready to go. But then they get here and they recognize that they need to know the language and able to be in most work environments. They need to know the language in order to receive and be able to drive safely on our streets. They need to know the language in order for their children to find success within the schools. And so some of them come with language skills and some of them don't. But most of the families, both parents work. Both parents are starting off in minimal entry-level jobs and trying to support large families. These aren't 2-children families. They're not the 1.5 family. They have multiple children. Often they are in a small home in the city, living in neighborhoods where they don't know or trust their neighbors. So that leads the children to be on the internet. What do you do as a busy parent to keep your child behaving in a small space? Often we lean towards devices, so that is very common too. Luckily, it helps teach some English, but it also teaches them a lot of the world that some of us aren't always proud of, right? So they're getting an education there that isn't necessarily helping them to succeed in our system. And a lot of these students haven't ever been a part of an educational system. So the students are behind in their reading and math and science skills. And they have parents who are intelligent and capable and willing, but just were raised in a different system than what we have here. The families are busy, much like us. They're working, they're trying to pay bills. I was talking with one mom and she said the amount of mail you get in the United States is incredible. And then attach that to trying to figure out what is real mail that I need to learn, and then attach that to translating every single piece. Talk about some anxiety.
Wow, I hadn't even thought of that. Just how overwhelming junk mail is for
Right?
me, a native English speaker. And wow, I hadn't even thought how overwhelming that could be, trying to figure out what is legitimate and what I need to respond to and what I don't in another language. Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also here, I would add that for many refugee families, a normal work day is that the dad is working probably in the morning and the mom is sleeping at home because she is going to be working at night. And so it's almost like there's a cycle of one person sleeping at home and the other guy is working. And so many times kids are on their own. They are probably the caregivers for the youngest ones in the family. And so it's like a day-to-day kind of an existence or a month-to-month existence, paying bills, just taking care of, family things. And so it's kind of basic living in my estimation of what I have seen too. So yeah, that's just how American life is, I guess. Refugees and the immigrants who are just coming in and starting everything from scratch.
We're learning about Christian Friends of New Americans serving refugees here in the St. Louis area. We'll continue the conversation in just a moment right here on the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
At Concordia University, Wisconsin, we believe you were created for a reason: to use your God-given gifts to help others, to live a life of self-sacrifice in a me-first world, to live a life that's uncommon. Whether you're taking one of 50-plus online programs or learning with us in person on the shores of Lake Michigan, you'll be equipped to make an uncommon impact. Learn more at cuw.edu. Concordia University, Wisconsin. Live uncommon.
Welcome back to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
Today we're talking with the Reverend Dr. Stanish Stanley, Executive Director of Christian Friends of New Americans, and Amy Ziegler, Community Engagement Associate with Christian Friends of New Americans, learning about the lives of refugees here in the St. Louis area, some of the challenges they face. In what ways, Pastor, does CFNA support and care for these refugee families in the St. Louis area today?
So in many ways, CFNA, as I mentioned before, the way CFNA works is through the agency of our Lutheran Church volunteers and believers. And so it is they who really carry forward the mission and ministry of CFNA and really support and care for refugee families. Of course, churches and institutions, granting agencies, the Lutheran play an important role in resourcing ministry so that refugee families and individuals can be cared for and supported as well. But having said that, it is important to note that without the agency of the Lutheran Church believer, caring and supporting for refugee families would be very, very difficult, because we are very much based on relationship building. It's a very relational ministry. It is walking alongside refugee children, alongside refugee adults in many cases, whether it's our after-school tutoring program that happens twice a week, or whether it's our ESL classes that happen for adults thrice a week. Driver's ed also that happens alongside the ESL classes, ESL meaning English as second language. And all these activity-based engagement is very much driven by a desire to build relationships, to learn more about what the refugee person's struggles are, and also support them in a way that is possible for us. So because, as I said, we are not a federally supported or a state government supported agency. We do not get funds from either of these entities. And there are others who get it. We are strictly a Lutheran Church organization that basically survives on the goodwill and the generosity and the mission-mindedness of our donors and partners. And so essentially what is happening is that because of these relational engagements that are made possible through the agency of our Lutheran Church friends, we are able to walk alongside the refugee people. As I said, helping them learn a car is not easy, especially if the new American does not know English very well and doesn't know what is right and left. But at the same time, by making it possible for them to learn driving, to help them get a permit and also then later on to get a driver's license, it really impacts them for the better, because they can then have freedom of mobility, buy their own groceries, take their family places without being dependent on others, find a job, get to places of work. And so those are some of the examples of how we support and care for refugee families. There's also a sewing program that we have for refugee women, which is also connected with a women's Bible study that happens. It's an opportunity for fellowship. It's an opportunity for learning a skill, and also making some side money, especially for Afghan men who come for those kind of programs. There's an opportunity to introduce Jesus through the word, and especially through the agency of the ministry of presence among believers. Now, these are all significant things for refugee women who are probably stuck in homes, unable to kind of go out and do things. And so they value these things. They value the fellowship. They value time with American Christian women who come to our center as well. And so what's essentially happening is caring and support for refugee families is done within our means. As I said, we are not an agency that has a lot of money, but we have fine Christian people, and it's the meeting point and the intersection of Christian generosity and mission mindedness with the needs of people who are coming in new to our country that really makes CFNA support and care happen for refugee families in the St. Louis area.
Amy, tell us about these volunteers and supporters. So much of this work is supported by them. Tell us about the people, the volunteers and supporters who contribute to the mercy shown through CFNA.
Yeah, we have a generous number of volunteers. Some come for one visit and some have come for, well, they haven't stopped coming. We'll say that. They've been so blessed. My family had started coming about 8 years ago. My son, my youngest, was in first or second grade, and my oldest was an eighth grader. And so all 6 of us would come on Thursday nights and work one-on-one on reading skills and math skills. And a first grader can teach another first grader a lot, especially with their patience and understanding of the struggle to learn how to read. So we have all ages. We also have retired teachers that come, or retired adults who were in different businesses that can help teach money skills to other adults. So our volunteers come from all different walks of life. Some of them are from here in the St. Louis area and can walk to the Peace Center. Others have come. Last summer, we had a group from Michigan and a group from Indianapolis. So if you're listening long distance, you too can come and enjoy some time with us. Email me and we'll get you set up. There are so many different ways to connect with CFNA, and we are blessed, and we really, truly have the impact and the ministry we do because of our volunteers.
Tell us about the current pressing needs of many of the refugees that are served by CFNA.
Yeah, Stanish said the immediate need right now is for those caught in this resettlement of the 90-day period. We have a family of 7 that just moved in about a little less than a month ago, right when all of this was starting. And they arrived, and typically the refugee families have 3 months of coverage for their home and for their groceries and just some startup things. And all of that has been frozen. And even though they were invited here by our government, they are not able to access these funds. So we as an organization are stepping in. We are providing them with bedding and food and rent assistance when we can. That's a much harder one. That's a larger fund than we always have pockets for. But we can connect them with people, and we're teaching them systems. So those are the kind of things that we're looking for extra help with. Also, the amount of people that are coming to us now because other organizations that were government funded have closed. So we are having a surge from everyone else saying, oh, CFNA, they will take care of you. They're still open. Go to them. So with that, our doors are swinging constantly, which is a beautiful thing because we teach Jesus, and everyone coming knows that they will, hear about him. However, we also need more people to speak and share and tell. So if you're in the local area, please connect with us. And if you're outside of the local area, you can connect with us through financial support or donating through our Amazon wish lists.
Yes, tell us more about ways that people can get involved this week. What are some things that people can do? I know this has been in the news for a while, so it's not probably not a new thing to know about the situation, but this is an opportunity for people to really make a difference. So what are some of those immediate things that people can really do to help?
Well, if I could start saying that, and Amy, you could add in also, definitely. So from what we are hearing is that the main international institute, the resettling agency, is already having problems finding houses for people. So there are some of them stuck in hotels and things like that who do not have homes. So if anybody knew about houses for rent, especially in the city area, and if they could kind of pass on that kind of information to us, and we would be happy to pass it on to the institute as well. That would be a big help for the refugee family that is stuck in a hotel and wants to kind of move on and get started with their resettlement here. The second thing that I would say is at CFNA, for instance, we really need help with volunteers, especially for English classes. we have a Friday morning class at 10 to 12, which would be great. And it's not going to cost any volunteer any money. Just come and just teach English. Even if you're not a ESL, English as second language, fancy words and everything included kind of training. It's not difficult for an English speaker who has gone through school over here, even if it's just till 10th grade or 12th grade. So if you just came out and it's, as I said earlier on, it's just a ministry of presence in many ways, just walking alongside, just being there, just sharing a smile and teaching a few English sentences and words and action-oriented talking points. That would be such a blessing. And so we are looking for volunteers to come out and help. Even young people could help. If they don't want to teach, they could at least open the door for people who are coming in. And we would love to have that kind of running help from young people who can run up and down the stairs and print copies for us. We would love to have that. Our older volunteers can then kind of just sit down in a chair and engage with people. So they make that possible. Of course, after school tutoring on Tuesday evenings and Thursday evenings always needs help. So if anybody's interested, that could be another area. If anybody is so bold has to come out and teach driving, we would love to have that too. You should be ready for some accidents here and there, but not serious ones, hopefully. And so if anybody's willing to do that, we would love to have that help as well. Of course, we have a sewing program for women, and if that is something that appeals to friends, there's a Bible study and a devotion kind of a Jesus movie and things like that. Or even if it's just kind of engaging with childcare at the sewing sessions, that's on the Wednesday afternoon. So that is something that would also be very much an ask from our side. Of course, you can always pray for the ministry. You can always support us with donations and funds as well that will go towards helping people who are having needs with rents. These are some simple things that we can this week as we asked, Sarah.
I think you mentioned that there is an opportunity for English tutoring on Fridays. Is that correct? At 10 a.m.?
That is correct. 10 to 12 a.m. At 10 to 12. Yeah.
When you're listening to the coffee hour, everything in St. Louis, if you're in the St. Louis area, everything is 20 minutes away. So
it's true.
So when you're done listening to the coffee hour, then you just head right over to the Peace Center. What's the address to the Peace Center again? Where do they find that?
So it is 4019 South Grand Boulevard. So it's in South City, St. Louis, 63118. But you can always visit our website, which is, you can even type CFNA, Christian Friends of New Americans, St. Louis, and you will get to our website over Google. But it's www.cfna, which is Christian Friends of New Americans, -stl.org.
CFNA-stl.org. Lots of opportunities there. And Amy, I think you mentioned a wish list as well. Where can we find that?
That's on our website as well. So, yep, that website is the key to all opportunity.
Very good. So a wish list, opportunities to give and support at CFNA-stl.org. And you can find out about ways to volunteer as well, including Friday mornings at 10 a.m. I serve as an English tutor. Or if you're so bold to be a driving tutor, helping with the driver's education as well. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Pastor Stanish. Thanks so much for spending time with us and helping us learn about Christian Friends of New Americans and the current needs right here in the St. Louis area.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
CFNA-stl.org is where you can learn more. You've been listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Eggleseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support The Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@KFUO.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.